Why do intellectuals write books? Well, it's because we want to live a good life and we want to spread our ideas. You don't need to write a book to do that. Socrates didn't write a book. Confucius, Jesus, Buddha. The great founders of the great intellectual traditions didn't write books. They were true philosophers. They were wise men. And they cared about living the good life, which is why they lived out their ideas like the Spartans and didn't just write books about them like the Athenians. And that act, being a moral exemplar, spread their ideas further than writing a book ever could. This is how Rousseau comments on his own contemporaries' book writing behavior. When their book was done and published, its content no longer interested them in any way, unless it were to make others adopt it and to defend it in case it were attacked. They drew nothing from it for living their lives and were not even concerned whether this content was false or true, provided it was not refuted. What appears to be, again, an altruistic action, a desire to increase the frontiers of human knowledge, is often primarily a vessel for pride. As this example goes to show, the pride of the intellectual is going to be a lot more subtle, which is probably why the corruption from arts and sciences have flown under the radar. When the athlete hoists his championship trophy up in the air, when the capitalist splays his name on a building, when a general accepts surrender, that's obvious. But intellectual pride, its mechanisms, are a lot less obvious, but not for that reason any less intense. Rousseau thinks that what intellectual life consists in is studying man. And as a result, the intellectual sees through a lot of the lies, a lot of the pretty narratives we tell ourselves. For example, like how many altruistic actions are actually motivated by pride. And what this does for the intellectual is that it gives him a contempt for humanity and further elevate himself. He feels prideful because of his special knowledge. I think there's another reason we can add to Rousseau about why intellectual pride may seem a lot more intense than first meets the eye, because of the incredible lag in intellectual recognition. If you're not in the MBA by the time you're 25, if you're not a billionaire by the time you're 70, you're just not going to be a great athlete or a great capitalist. But Nietzsche could have lived his sane intellectual life in obscurity and still held on to the belief that future university departments will be set up to study his works. And Nietzsche would be right. Because of that incredible lag in intellectual recognition, it gives the intellectual a lot more room, a lot more imagination for their pride to grow. Now, pride is obviously prone to many abuses. And I think if you're not careful, you're going to end up like that Fight Club quote, buying things you don't need with money you don't have to impress people you don't like. But pride isn't something you can just easily renounce because of how strong and how central it is in the human motivational repertoire for Rousseau. I mean, to this day, I agree with Rousseau. I've not met a single person who's not primarily motivated by pride in some form. There was one guy in college who went around telling that he didn't care what other people thought of him. Of course, what he was actually saying is, please think of me as somebody who does not care what you think of me. So the question for Rousseau is not going to be, how do we stop caring what other people think, but what type of recognition to delight in. And Rousseau is very explicit. He wants to be honored, but only by a small handful of wise men, and not what he derogatorily calls the people. He wants his name to last hundreds of years and not just chase fashions and trends of the day. Now, even if there are ways to direct pride to shape it in a healthy manner, Rousseau thinks that there are many more ways of abuse. And the heart of Rousseau's critique of enlightenment is about all the ways that pride goes wrong in intellectual life. Thanks for watching this clip. My name is Jonathan B., and I'm creating accessible lectures and interviews on the great books. If you want to watch the full lecture where this clip came from, click here. If you want to go even deeper into these ideas beyond what I put out on YouTube, then join my email list at greatbooks.io. You'll not only get lectures and interviews, but also transcripts, book summaries, and essays, all to help you explore the most important books in history. Thank you.